This really interested me because on Meet the Press, Chuck Todd gave us gave the viewers there some statistics about Trump supporters. And I want you to listen carefully to the picture he paints here, and then I want to try to interpret it. So take a look.
64% of his supporters didn't attend college, sort of the polar opposite of the establishment lane. Then you've got this fact: 61% of his supporters do not attend church weekly. Again, opposite of the evangelical way. There's one more distinguishing characteristic worth pointing out. This is sort of a blue-collar vote. Again, that hasn't been a force in Republican primaries before. 54% of Trump supporters earn less than $75,000 a year.
All right, so Lisa, when you walk away from those stats, what do you think about the Trump supporters?
You know, I don't know who they are. I don't personally know.
What's the picture he's painting? I do. I talked a lot to him. What do you think the picture?
There's a clear picture.
Listen, it's not just that Trump is talking the loudest or that he has the biggest platform. Let's be very clear. He is the most outrageous, inflammatory, racist candidate that we have seen probably since the days of Joe McCarthy. The Muslim family that lives next door to me, the Muslim employees who I have in my law firm, the Muslim children who I know are now under threat in America because hate crimes against Muslims are now up because of Trump's inflammatory rhetoric. This is not acceptable. This is un-American. I don't know who his supporters are, but they apparently don't believe in the Constitution, and they don't believe in the values that I thought we all shared.
Okay, so the Trump supporters don't believe in the Constitution. That's what Lisa's saying. And you started chuckling at who the Trump supporters were.
Well, I think,
what's the picture?
Well, the picture that we're getting from these statistics and what we see when we look at these rallies is he's playing to uneducated, white, middle class, mostly men who feel like somehow they've been pushed out of the country, or that because we have an African-American president, or because the country is becoming too brown for them, they want to make America great again. Let me just say this. And when he says make America great again, when was America great? Was America great when minorities didn't have rights? Was America great when women didn't have rights? When was this great time in America's history that Trump wants to take us back to? Because I think that's a cold word for take us back to a time when minorities and women didn't have the rights that we have now, that we fought so hard for.
Take us back, his supporters say, to the time when we interred Japanese Americans during World War II. They use that as an example of a great time in America.
All right, I want to get back to these statistics. So Ernie, I'm going to bring you into this a little bit too. Let's go down the Trump supporter statistics. 64% did not attend college. Okay, what percentage of Americans did not attend college? What percentage of all Americans did not attend college? Any guess on that? What percentage of Americans? 64% did not attend as Trump supporter. What's the percentage of all Americans?
I don't know.
64%.
62%. 62%. So the average American does not go to college, everybody.
And the average American supports Trump.
Number two, what percentage of Americans, all Americans, do not attend church weekly? Of Trump supporters, it's 60%. What percentage of Americans?
58%.
Yeah, I'm going to go aligned with this.
In about 61% of Trump supporters, 60% of Americans do not attend. So he's hitting exactly square in the average American. The only place he's off the train, where he goes completely outside, 54% of his supporters earned less than $75,000 a year. What percentage of Americans gain less than sigma? Yeah, 85% of Americans make less than. So the dumb, poor people you're talking about is us. It's all of us. We're all. It fits the profile. The average American is responding to his stuff.
Yeah, exactly. He's struck a nerve where people want to have these conversations. And
how can Meet the Press get up there and say that with in good conscience and paint this picture of a dumb, white, poor person when it's the average American we're painting the picture of?